So you've been exploring the idea of packing up your life and moving to a quaint little town in Metro Detroit. Well, let me introduce you to Romeo, Michigan, a village so charming you might expect to see it on a postcard. It's nestled in Macomb County. This place has the tree-lined streets, the historical homes, and the small town feeling that we want so much to get back to. But before you start daydreaming about small town bliss, let's dive into what living in Romeo, Michigan is like, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. For those of you who have no idea what Romeo, Michigan is, and before you search up if there's a Juliet, Michigan, there isn't, I looked for you. Romeo is a little 2.05 square mile shaped hammer situated in Macomb County with a population of right around 3,800 people. This is a place that doesn't get a lot of love being in the northern outskirts of Metro Detroit, so I'm here to shed some light on this little community, but also give you insight into not so good things about the area too. You might be thinking to yourself, where have I heard of Romeo, Michigan before? Well, outside of the town being known for its historical architecture dating back to the 1800s, there's a lot of press that surrounds their one-of-a-kind peach festival that is on its 93rd anniversary, which happens on Labor Day every single year. There's markets, art, craft shows, carnival rides, food trucks, a 5K and 10K run, a concert series, a peach golf classic, car show and cruise and parade, while having shuttle service available as well for everybody. It is something that should be experienced by everyone truly, and I couldn't possibly hype it up enough if I wanted to. Just don't be disrespecting peaches out there. The next event that gets some publicity right around this time of year is Tilson Street. Tilson Street is a street in Romeo that goes all out for Halloween, and by all out, I mean all out. Spirit Halloween has nothing on this street. I even read that people come from as far as Mississippi to have their kids trick or treat here, and it's estimated that with about 30 homes participating in this, that they are dishing out over 75,000 pieces of candy each year, and that number continues to climb. This extravagant experience was created to make a safe environment for kids to trick or treat, and it's made such an amazing community within Romeo, and I think that event alone says a lot about the community of Romeo itself. Just remember, if someone ever sells their home down that street and you buy it, you better understand the expectations for Halloween. I'll link some more info in the description about events and things to do in Romeo, Michigan. Although this area is known for maintaining its quaintness, there's just a few flies in their peach cobbler when it comes to the location, depending on your lifestyle, of course. With Romeo being 40 plus miles from downtown Detroit, 23 miles from Warren, which is nice if you work in an auto manufacturer or place out of that area, 31 plus miles from Royal Oak in the Woodward Corridor, 18 plus miles from Auburn Hills, and 50 or so miles from Novi, just to give you that perspective, and 20 plus miles from the business hub we call Troy, which would also be a nice commute. So there's pros and cons, right? M53 is the interstate that runs north and south to make travel a little easier, but you still have to drive 20 miles south to get to M59 for east and west travel too. This quaint little town would be perfect for somebody working remotely who loves the small town feel and wants to be outside the hustle and bustle of Metro Detroit, but it's also good for people who work out of Macomb County as well. If you're someone who wants to live in this area and doesn't mind longer commutes, then by all means call this spot home. But for those of you traveling to downriver communities to work or a more centralized area in Metro Detroit, it could get old pretty quickly. With location in mind, you'd assume the village isn't ranked the greatest, being as the surrounding area is fairly rural, and most times these little towns don't get the love they deserve since they aren't always landing themselves in the headlines like some of the more well-known ones. Romeo, based on rankings, is pretty middle of the road, with niche.com giving them a number 128 out of 336 suburbs with the best public schools in Michigan, among other rankings such as number 65 of 624 best places to retire in Michigan, number 87 of 338 most diverse suburbs in Michigan. Romeo is also considered number 7 in best places to raise a family in Macomb County, and the village earned an overall ranking of a B+ based on public schools, housing, good for families, jobs, cost of living, outdoor activities, crime and safety, nightlife, diversity, weather, health and fitness, and commute. The three things that kept this ranking from being an A- or an A is commute, which I talked about already, the weather, which I don't count anyway because it's given a low grade in most communities in Michigan anyway, nightlife, because this little small town has a lot of locally owned businesses and they don't have super late hours like these commercially or franchise owned bars and restaurants. The one aspect of this report card that was the lowest, coming in at C+, was the outdoor activities, which I get. The little village is hardly 2 square miles in size. You aren't going to fit very many extravagant parks and trails in that space. Once you factor in all the residential homes and normal necessary amenities, there's not a whole lot of space to work with. But that doesn't mean those outdoor amenities aren't just a stone's throw away in a nearby community. There's golf courses, metro parks, smaller parks, lakes, etc., but I understand why it's given a poor grade in that department. After talking about schools a little bit, I wanted to lean into them a little bit more, which will help with the conversation about property taxes too. According to niche.com, Romeo Community Schools are ranked number 3 best school districts in Macomb County, with an overall grade of an A-, which is broken down into the following categories: academics, teachers, clubs and activities, sports, resources and facilities, diversity, college prep, administration, and food. The district is also ranked number 53 of 482 best school districts for athletes in Michigan, number 80 of 539 best school districts in Michigan, and number 143 of 507 best places to teach in Michigan. The student-to-teacher ratio is roughly 16-to-1, with 7 different schools with over 5,000 students. A lot of people have a lot of good things to say about the schools, with most complaints being about the administration or a particular department with an individualized circumstance, which of course can't be downplayed. I'll be sure to link some info in the description for the Romeo School District. In terms of property taxes, this tends to be a con with the area, as village property taxes tend to be more expensive, as it will be separate from a township tax. In this instance, Romeo was cut into 2 townships, Bruce Township and Washington Township, but there's also Armada Township on the eastern border of Romeo and Ray Township on the southeast border of Romeo, while there's also a few other townships that utilize Romeo schools, such as Addison Township, Shelby Township, and Oakland Township. It can get extremely confusing, I know, but I'm going to focus on Bruce Township, Washington Township, Armada Township, and Ray Township, as these areas are where you're technically still in the village of Romeo in a property tax sense. If you are in Bruce Township in the village of Romeo, your millage rate, which is the rate used to calculate your property taxes, is 42.3192. If you're in Washington Township in the village of Romeo, it is 43.8151. In Ray Township, it would be 43.1298. In Armada Township, it would be 42.8249. The difference in these rates from one another isn't huge by any means, but the big difference is when you live in one of these townships and are in a school district outside of the village of Romeo. For example, in the village of Armada, but going to Romeo schools, it's a millage rate of 26.2977. If you're in Bruce Township outside of the village of Romeo, but still in the school district, it's a millage rate of 25.7920. Or for Ray Township, it's 26.6026. And Washington Township is 28.9185. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you, so it really comes down to, if you want Romeo schools, live just outside the village and you'll pay nearly half in property taxes. This is an extremely boring topic, I know, but there's a reason I spend so much time on it throughout every single video and community, because money is money, and if you can save it while taking advantage of what the community offers and where you actually want to be, that's what we love to hear. I'll link a thick PDF in the description below where you can Control F on your keyboard to find communities of interest and the rates associated with them. With property taxes in mind, it seems fitting to talk about housing in general. When it comes to the housing in Romeo, Michigan, there are quite a few carriage houses and Victorian-style architecture from the 1800s, but on average, most of the homes were built right around 1961. This graph provided by the MLS showing the average sale price over the last 3 years, with the entire MLS in blue, Romeo, Michigan in green, we can see that Romeo is just under $300,000. In the last year, there have been 57 sold homes, condos, and mobile homes sold in Romeo, ranging from a $25,000 mobile home located in Romeo's Springbrook Estates manufactured home park to a $850,000 two-story home located in Romeo's sought-after subdivision called Copperwood Commons. I wanted to also show you a few options of what right around $300,000 gets you in Romeo, Michigan, being as that's the average price. Kicking it off with the first spot, we have this $281,000 condo with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,193 total finished square feet, a 2-car attached garage, built in the year 2000 with an HOA of $250 a month covering snow removal and maintenance of the grounds. A good option to consider if you want a spot with little to no maintenance but you still want some space. Home number 2 is a 1930s bungalow right near downtown Romeo with 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, 1,300 total finished square feet, a 2-car detached garage, remodel in 2021 and situated on 0.15 acres. This is a nice home to be in near downtown while also having a nice privacy fence as well. The updates look to be very well done, actually. Lastly, we have this $292,800 bungalow that was built in 1949 with 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, 1,637 total finished square feet, a 2-car detached garage, and situated on 0.16 acres. Some nice archways showing some of the history of the home, which is pretty cool. And just overall, another good option around that average price tag, a few streets off of the main street of Romeo, Michigan. Romeo, Michigan, is it a place you would live? Do the pros outweigh the cons, or vice versa? Overall, Romeo, Michigan is a quaint little town in the north end of Metro Detroit. The commute time may be on the higher side if you're someone needing to travel to downtown Detroit or other centralized areas around southeast Michigan. If you're looking for that small town feel that's so fleeting these days and a community-centric atmosphere, then boom, it's right here in Romeo, Michigan. But if you're wanting somewhere that has growth and development at the forefront, I wouldn't say that fits the bill for Romeo. The downtown has everything you need, but there's not access or tremendous variety, and that's something to keep in mind too. Although the home prices are low compared to a lot of areas in Metro Detroit, it's important to factor in property taxes, not just looking in this area, but all areas throughout Michigan because they can be pretty sneaky. For those of you watching, is this a community you live in? Why or why not? And for those of you that live in the area, what are your thoughts? Drop them in the comments below. If you're thinking about moving to Michigan in one day or a million, feel free to reach out anytime. I also have a link to the Living in Michigan newsletter to give you insight on all things Michigan, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss out. Thanks for watching. Until next time.